Welcome back, everybody, and happy Election Day. It is my pleasure to welcome to the program somebody who I've really been wanting to speak with for a little while. She's very busy. I'm very happy that she found the time. Please welcome Hannah Kepple.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
It's such a pleasure. And again, happy Election Day to you. You also happen to be my 100th guest on the program. So thank you for being that, and thank you for kind of taking my favorite show over the last number of months and being the lucky number 100.
Oh, yay. That's so exciting. Happy 100.
Thank you. Yeah, we taped our 100th episode last week. But again, certain guests had more than one episode. So now you're officially the 100th guest.
Yay. Wonderful.
Perfect. And then, happy upcoming birthday. So that's the third thing
Oh,
that's concluded.
thank you very much. Thank you.
You're very welcome. All right. So lots of exciting things that are happening right now. And again, people know you as Moon on Cobra Kai. I love Cobra Kai. It's that kid in me that grew up watching the Karate Kid, that went into martial arts because partially of Karate Kid and Bruce Lee and then some of the other guys, Jean-Claude Van Damme. Jean-Claude, if you're watching, uh, happy past the 60th birthday to you, buddy. So kind of watching Cobra Kai rekindled all of those memories that I had as a kid growing up and seeing those movies. And like a lot of the fans, I was kind of apprehensive because I really didn't want that experience to be, for the lack of a better word, ruined by something that's new. And it was quite the contrary. It was as nostalgic as I wanted it to be, and it was as exciting and new and better in a lot of ways than the Karate Kid, the whole series. So I'm really thankful to the creators and to everybody in it for making that part great.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, I feel like a lot of the original fans kind of felt the same way that you did when announcements of the show first came out. And I think the apprehension is totally understandable, especially in regards to a lot of classic films when they do reboots or readaptions and things.
Right.
But in regards to Cobra Kai specifically, we are so lucky with the writers that we have.
Mm.
John, Josh, and Hayden love the Karate Kid. I just as much as any other of the original fans.
Yeah.
And this show has been their baby, and they just are just fantastic writers between the humor and bringing in the sincerity of it, and then all the Easter eggs of the film. So we were so lucky that they decided to take on this project and bring it to all the original fans and all the new fans.
Yeah, and again, there are definitely new fans because now my kids are watching it and getting all the experiences. Because again, to as a parent, you can be in love with something, but you want your kids to have that too. And for my kids to have the new experiences and to kind of start really caring about the whole enterprise now of the Karate Kid world is really special. So it shows that the creators are true fans and they know it inside and out, and they really, it's like you said, it's their baby. They're really careful with it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and it, like you're saying, it's so special that now families who the parents grew up with the original movies and now their kids get to grow up with the show. It brings people together, and that's really special.
It is, and again, it's another reason for my son to go into martial arts as as I'm pushing him. So yep, it works on many levels, and I can use the little levers that just because he likes it, I can get into. So
That's amazing.
and let's talk about the show, because again, I know a lot of people who are watching this are fans of the program. The show, when it came out, it was a moderate hit, I would say, on Red. But when it got on Netflix, it blew up, where it became, I think, number one, on top 10 in Netflix, and everything kind of just went to the next level, if you will, and probably far beyond that. How was it for you as an actor that was a part of already a great series, and you had all of your experiences on it, and then all of a sudden wow, everybody discovered it. What was that like?
Yeah, I mean, Cobra Kai was my first job.
Mhm.
So being a part of it to begin with was a really big deal for me. And when it was released to YouTube Red, that was a big deal. We were so excited because we all loved it. And then hearing the feedback of the fans who
Mhm.
saw it on YouTube Red, that was amazing. Um, and then once we heard that we were being picked up by Netflix, it just, it at first it was kind of this surreal experience. I didn't really know what to expect with the show being released, like who knows. And then once it was released and we got just all this feedback and it was #1 for weeks, and I mean it was crazy. And I knew how much we loved the show and how much it meant to people already, but I don't think there was any way I could expect how well it's been doing now on Netflix.
And deservedly so. I mean, it is a really incredible show. You get to care so much about the new generation. We obviously love the old generation, and learning all of the new things that we didn't know before, that we kind of, suspected and thought, and now we get a chance to see it, and then at the same time care about the new generation. I think when Kevin Smith, at Comic-Con had the cast on, and he was just jumping out of his skin because he was so excited. That's kind of a lot of us. We're finding ourselves in that same spot. And the end of season 2, my God, I was in shock for a few days. I was crying. I was convincing myself, because I'm an actor, so I'm convincing myself, like, I know how they did this. I understand where it's going. It's a great setup, but the fan part of me and the human part of me is just distraught. It took
Yeah.
days to get over it. It was just so great.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Yeah, the cliffhanger, it's a doozy.
Yeah. And you feel it coming, and it's something horrible is about to happen. You just
Mm-hmm.
have that thing in the pit of your stomach, which again is how well they did the whole scene, which I want to talk about for in a second, because that whole scene, that was a really really complex scene to take, but they built it up so great. You knew that it was happening. You knew it's going to end badly. You just didn't know how,
Yeah.
and it was just it was gut wrenching. It was,
Right to the heart.
yeah, and I immediately went like, hold on, there has to be a season 3. If this ends like this, I don't know what I'm gonna do to myself. And thankfully, season 3 is coming out. I think we can say that it's coming out in January of next year, and we're not gonna say
Yes.
anything else, correct?
Yeah, season 3 will be out January 2021, so we can all look forward to that.
Yes. Yeah, and we don't have that long to wait. So I think our anticipation, there's so many things that they left at the end of season 2 that,
Mhm.
I've been watching all of the videos of people, kind of exploring and where is all this going, and with the teasers. And so I think we have some general idea, but I know that there's going to be a lot of surprises along the way. So can't wait there. Uh, Going back to again, for those who haven't seen the show, warnings, right? But
Mhm. Yes, yes.
at the end of season 2, there is a tremendous kind of fight in the hallway, in school, where the Cobra Kai kids and the Miyagi-Do kids really get into it, and there's a lot of great stuff that you really really want to see and you're proud of, and then there is the cliffhanger. So that scene, how long did it take to shoot? Because just the choreography, I think it would have taken a while to put together, and then to shoot it. It's days in my mind. How long did it take?
Yeah, so I'm in the very beginning of this big scene. I make an appearance, and then I'm kind of sorry, my cat came and joined the interview. But so I'm in the beginning of this scene.
Yep.
Um and then after that, I was fortunate enough to be able to watch the rest of it. I kind of hung out on set and watched it kind of unfold. The beginning of it, the part that I'm in, it's a oneer, so it's all one fluid scene without any cuts.
Yep.
And we did that we only did it a handful of times.
Wow.
We only needed to do a handful of times. And I kind of feel like for the whole school fighting, it was 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
I was only on set for one of those days, but I think it was 2-3 days. But they did training for it extensively. There was a lot of characters involved in that, and it took a lot of preparation, but it was well worth it in the end.
Yeah, and shout out to Simon Ray, who's one of the incredible people that's doing the training of the new generation in fighting. Simon, his brother Philip, they're amazing. So I'm a big fan of those. Which actually, we'll come back to some other questions in a second. But does Moon get a chance to do any martial arts? Okay, so forget season 3. Did Moon get a chance, or did you, Hannah, get a chance to actually practice or participate in anything? I know I didn't see it in season 1 and 2. But did you say, hey, listen, I want to be a part of this too, right?
Yes. Well, I can let it be known that all the writers, everybody knows that I want to learn how to do all the cool karate moves, all of the martial arts and stunts. I've been watching it since season 1, and I would love to be a part of it, whether or not Moon gets involved or not. I let them know. Yeah, exactly. That aside, I would love to. So I traveled from North Carolina to Georgia to film a lot. So I wasn't staying in Atlanta like a lot of the LA actors were.
Yep.
So I wasn't able to really get in on training because I really would just travel for filming and then travel home and back and forth.
Yep.
But I mean, maybe future seasons I can just, get in there. Yeah, just watch at least, maybe help out with training for sure.
Yeah. I think Moon has a few things to express to Hawk in a martial arts way. So
right, exactly.
I would definitely be into that fight. The fight between Hawk and Dimitri.
I would love that. I feel like she should just break out one day and just surprise everybody with some incredible moves.
I think so. I mean, why not? And Moon's character, which I was very happy to see, because she kind of started out as another friend, as somebody in that popular clique, and there wasn't a ton of kind of three-dimensionality to the character. And then you see the character kind of evolve, and then you see somebody that we really got to care a lot about. So when this started out, I know you're a recurring character, but did it start out as a potential recurring, or did they kind of say, hey, there's a guest star for the pilot, and then we'll see?
Yeah, so if I remember correctly, I could honestly pull up the email. I still have it for the audition. I think the breakdown was, it did say recurring, but I was cast as a local to Atlanta. And I think it was recurring, but just season 1 as far as I knew. And then I was told that I'd be brought for season 2, and that was really amazing. And then for 3. So since the beginning, I knew I'd be recurring. I just didn't know how much.
Yeah, and again, as actors, we rarely have kind of input, but as the writers kind of get to know us, they're forming certain elements of the character to our strengths. So did you feel like, at the beginning and where Moon ended up, because there was a lot of development there, did you have any input? Did the writers come to you and saying, what do you think about this?
Definitely for season 2, they talked to me about a few aspects. I remember season 1, it was kind of a big deal. We would get scripts for the next episodes and be like, ooh, you're going to be a love interest with this character, so you're going to have to kiss this person. And that was really funny back then. But season 2, spoiler disclaimer, I guess, Moon ends up kissing a girl in an episode after she's broken up with Hawk. And that was something that the writers talked to me about, what I was comfortable with and how they kind of saw the character. And that was really cool. And I love how they brought that inclusivity into the show and having that representation for people. so that's was something we kind of talked about. I think that was the biggest thing in season 2 that we discussed.
Yeah, it was definitely unexpected. So that that particular moment was like, okay, that was it was such a perfect punch to Hawk's ego. But
Mhm.
I'm not going to say we. I did not see that coming. So it worked. They're writing the whole kind of getting to that worked because it was a shock to the system and it was perfect. So that's nice that they had that conversation with you. Um, in terms of, let's go back to kind of the auditioning process because this was your first job. And by the way, what a great first gig to land. Kudos to you, and thank God for the opportunities. How did they come about?
Yeah. I had just kind of recently started acting in film,
Mhm.
or at least auditioning and getting an agent in my local area. This was my junior year of high school, I believe. It was the beginning of my junior year,
Mhm.
and it was just another audition. And it was for it was like a Ralph Macchio YouTube Red show, and I didn't really know Ralph Macchio off the top of my head. I have to admit, I knew the Karate Kid, but I didn't know his name. And so my agent kind of explained it to me a little bit, and I was like, yeah, of course, why not? And I sent in a tape, um, and I heard back pretty quickly that they wanted me to come in LA, or not LA, come into Atlanta
Mhm.
for a callback. And I showed up to the callback, and there were lots of girls that looked just like me and looked completely different from me. There was like a Disney Channel star, and I was totally overwhelmed, but excited. I was really excited.
Mhm.
And I auditioned in front of a lot of the producers and the writers and people. And I think it was days after I heard that I got it, and I traveled back to Atlanta for the table read with Ralph and Billy and Sholo and Jacob and all those guys and Mary, and it was just crazy. My first ever job, I'm like sitting at this table surrounded by all these stars from Disney Channel in the 80s, and it was amazing. I was definitely starstruck.
And thank you for sharing that. And that it goes into my next question of who was the kind of the biggest starstruck experience for you? Which one of these, boys and girls?
Yeah, I have to admit, I had to look up a lot of the other actors. Like I'd never watched Parenthood, so I didn't really know Sholo before. Mary, I kind of recognized from Disney Channel, so that was cool. I feel like, of course, Ralph and Billy, because even though I didn't know their names per se, the Karate Kid is huge, and even as a kid, I grew up watching it.
Mhm.
Um, so I would say them, and then of course in season 2 when Peyton List came on board, I grew up watching her on Disney Channel, so that was really cool to get to know her. So yeah, I've been starstruck throughout both seasons, all seasons.
I'm totally with you. And I think I'm very happy that Peyton is kind of going through this part of her career where, she played somebody who was nice and shy. And we
Mhm.
saw a lot of that as she was growing up. And then now she's getting into these, quote unquote mean girl kind of roles that are a lot meatier in terms of emotional depth, and you can really play and discover yourself as an actor. So for her, this should really expand her career trajectory and allow her to play a variety of roles. And I think she's great in season 2. I hope it continues. As much as I liked her, because again, my daughter is 16, so she grew up watching Peyton, and I saw a bunch
Yeah.
of that stuff, kind of seeing along with her. So it was hard for me because I like Peyton as the actress, and I really started to dislike the character that she was playing. So like, there's this
Yeah.
juxtaposition of emotions that were going on at the same time.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's same with anybody that plays a mean character or kind of the enemy in the situation.
Right.
But Peyton List is the sweetest person in real life, and I think it just goes to show her abilities as an actor that she's able to convince you that she is this kind of gritty, mean girl when she's really not. But I really commend her because I think anybody coming from Disney has to work really hard in proving themselves outside of that. bubble. But honestly, we have a lot of Disney kids on our show, like Tanner, Mary, Jacob, Gianni, Peyton, probably more that I'm not thinking of. They all have been on Disney projects, and they're all fantastic, and really all have depth to their work.
Yeah, and from your career perspective, I think being in this iconic show is really helpful, but then not being one of the regulars that are going to get, in a way, kind of remembered for the specific role is also a helpful thing. So you can be there, you can show yourself, and not be always viewed upon as the particular character that you played, which is something that Julie or Ralph had to deal with all their whole life.
Oh
So
my gosh, yeah.
that's
That's so funny. I've never really thought about that, but I 100% agree with you, because I think a lot of people, when they start out acting, they really think about the next big break, the next big character that they can play. But there's a lot to be learned when you start out to be playing these recurring characters in smaller roles, where you're just figuring out how to even do this whole thing, and what your process is, and learning. So I 100% agree with you. I learned so much just being on set and just watching and seeing all these other people who've been acting their whole lives, see what they're doing.
And you're doing beautiful segues, by the way, because that's the next part I wanted to ask you of, being that this was your first job, and being around people who've been doing this for a long time. I'm sure it was intimidating at some points, but how did you own it in a way? Because you have to own it, right? Once you're on set, we're all the same. We're all here because we were hired for a job, and we should feel like we're on the same level. But how did you get yourself to that point? Was it easy? Was it natural? Or was it like, I have to talk myself into it and kind of fake it till you make it?
Yeah, I have to admit, I think I'm still getting to that point.
Okay.
The first couple seasons on the show, I won't lie and tell you I was super confident and knew exactly what I was doing. I was very self-conscious throughout the process, just because I was so new to the whole experience. But with that being said, I was so fortunate to be surrounded by the cast and crew that I was. Every single person on that set helped me grow in different ways I didn't even know I needed to. And they were so great about any sort of questions I had. And the people who had been doing it for years and years, and Nicole, who plays Aisha, that was also her first project that she had been a part of, and we kind of stuck together being the newbies and asked a bunch of questions, and it was great. We really enjoyed ourselves.
That's very cool. And then again, another segue is to I guess I know that you mentioned that you didn't stay in Atlanta and you kind of commuted back and forth, but who were friends that you're still really close to as a part of that shoot?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we all got really close. I still talk to most of them. Season 1 and 2, or season 1, I hung out a lot with Mary and Annalisa, who played Yasmin, because a lot of my scenes were with them. And they're a good bit older than me by a couple years, but they were really great when I had questions and giving advice, and they're sweet girls. And then I love hanging out with the guys too. Jacob and Gianni and Sholo and Tanner are so funny. They're all fun to hang out with. And we became like a little family. And it's always fun coming back to set and catching up after months apart.
Yeah, because I think that's the kind of family that stays with you, and hopefully it'll continue throughout your career, that you'll get a chance to work with each other on different projects, and it'll be like that same reconnecting with a family member, even though you haven't seen them for a few years. So it's a fantastic first experience. I doesn't have to be a first experience, but for you, it's just a fantastic way to get into the industry and have this experience and create this family. I'm very happy about it.
Oh yeah, me too. I'm very, very lucky.
Perfect. Last question on Karate Kid. Just more from the acting perspective. what were some of the acting things that kind of threw you? That whether you're a newbie or it's just a difficult scene to get into. What were some of those experiences like?
I'm trying to think. I've always had a hard time with lines, memorizing lines, and that's one of the most basic parts of acting. So that was really, really a tough thing would be when they would change lines day of or change a scene slightly. I have to do a lot of preparation before to just even memorize, let alone anything else.
Yeah.
So that was kind of tough from a standpoint of just quickly trying to remember the new version of the lines or scenes. I guess another thing is, one thing people who maybe have never been on set before is how quickly sometimes things can happen, how you'll only do a couple takes of a scene and move on to a new scene, or it could take days and days to do one scene. And that's something that I had no idea happened. And so it was kind of being flexible with the pace of how the whole thing came together.
Yeah. So what have you done? Like, what are some of your tricks? You said that you had difficult time memorizing lines. There are all sorts of ways to kind of combat that. Anything in particular that started working for you as you got more and more into it?
Yeah, how I first memorize a scene for an audition, or if I book a job, I'll do some script analysis where not only am I looking at the lines, but what's happening in the scene. And so when I can kind of associate what's going on around me and what the other person is doing, that helps me get a feeling of everything. And then honestly, just one thing that's really helped me is I will record myself just going through the whole scene, both parts, on voice memo. And then instead of listening to podcasts or music in the car, I'll just listen to my voice on repeat, which is awful. I hate listening to my own voice, but it helps a lot. That's one trick that I've learned recently.
Yeah. The coach in me wants to add things there. Never mind.
Please tell me. I would love some recommendations.
Again, please, in terms of everybody who's watching, if you have recommendations, put them below. Comment. Hopefully Hannah will get a chance to look at them. But from my perspective, because I do this too, I recorded on voice memos, and I would listen to it on the way to auditions, kind of to have that through. The trick there, and the part that didn't work for me, is that things need to be organic. And whatever I do, whatever that recording is, that's one version of it. And I don't want that to be programmed in my brain, because I don't want to do it the same way, because I want to have the ability to say a line completely differently based on how I'm feeling at that moment. So it became kind of the programming that I had to put aside. So what I found that works for me is I find that I'm more of a visual person. I'm looking at signs. Visually, I get it. What you've mentioned of reading them a few times, kind of start getting a feel, take some notes, and really kind of start embodying the character. And then it feels like once you understand it, the words naturally appear. And I'm more of a visual than an auditory. And I found that it's quicker for me to learn lines by looking rather than by listening. For whatever reason, I think all of us are kind of wired differently. And that's what I've seen that works best for me, is I read things, and I read them kind of dispassionately. I read them dispassionately. I try to remember the lines based on kind of just some feelings and seeing what the scene is about, and then start working on the character, and then reading them again more as the character, and kind of trying things on of how do I feel right now, because acting is about receiving. So right now, as I'm looking at your expression, at your body language, there is certain energy and there's certain information that's flowing forward. So it's hard to do when you're not with somebody, and you kind of have to imagine that. So you're picking up on cues, and then eventually you get to a point where the words are in that short-term memory bank, which again, don't ask me next week to remember the words that I just did for an audition. I'm not going to. But
Mhm.
short memory over time starts really, really clicking, and you can remember lines. I get to a point where if I need to kind of do something that's 2 or 3 pages worth of dialogue, I can get to it in about 15, 20 minutes. Um,
Wow.
I'm gonna forget it, 3 hours later, but I can get to it really quickly, and it just kind of sits there. But for me, it's visual. So
Okay.
see and kind of experiment with yourself of which one's quicker for you, visual or auditory. And then if you are
Mhm.
going to be listening, instead of listening to the same one, maybe record it 3 or 4 different ways. And
Mhm.
then you're still listening to your voice, but
Yeah.
you're listening to it in different inflections and in different feelings.
Yes.
And that will allow you to kind of pick up of saying, hey, you know what, I kind of liked what I did there. Why did I do that? And then you start connecting more and more with the character again. So
Mhm.
those those would be some of my suggestions of find
Yeah.
visual or auditory and then vary with it.
No, that's fantastic. I totally agree. And yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is you don't want to get into a certain rhythm and make certain choices that you stick with. And so when I do these recordings, I don't do them with any emotion or any sort of inflections.
No.
Monotonous can be so it's just the words, but also with that, like you're saying, you don't want to get stuck in a certain pace.
Yep.
It needs to be organic, and I think that's another segue into with auditions, how important it can be sometimes with a reader,
Mhm.
because like you're saying, you're playing off another person and what they're giving you, and sometimes it's so hard when you have someone who's just reading the lines monotone and you're trying to give and receive.
Yeah, it could be difficult, especially for people who are, Meisner. I really need to connect in order to
Yeah.
play off of it. But basically, it's kind of like, the green screen or acting straight to camera.
Yeah.
When you're imagining that there's somebody on the other end of it and you have to portray feelings. So the technique that I use in auditions when the reader is
Mhm.
giving me nothing
Yeah.
is go back and think to commercial technique. And the commercial technique, when you're speaking to camera, you're not selling anything. You're talking to a friend, or you're talking to your dad, or you're talking to a neighbor, and you're just sharing. And that connection to the other person, that is something that I try to kind of put on to the reader. So whatever words are coming out of the reader, I immediately kind of transpose them into a friend or a brother or a relative or somebody who I'm not happy with at the moment. So then all of that kind of the cap comes on, regardless of how the words sound. I have something that I kind of put on that allows me to work with it and get the emotions that I want back from
Oh yeah, see, that's great. That's fantastic.
it. We all find these tricks, right? Because
Mhm.
the more you do it, the more you're going to find what works for you. These are just some of the things that I found that work.
Exactly. Oh yeah, I mean it's a huge part of acting is we all have our processes that work, and one thing I love so much about it is it's you're continually evolving and growing and finding new things that work and old things that don't, and yeah, it's fantastic.
Very cool. Last thing, I know I said, kind of before that, but last thing with a show that's so successful, looking at your social media, you have a lot of followers. What is it like for somebody who's new to the industry, somebody who was not a child actor who had to deal with all of this attention growing up? What is it like to be in the public eye? Can you give me some of the pros and cons that you have seen so far?
Oh yeah, for sure. Um yeah, it's definitely been a process for me. Starting out the show, I didn't have anybody watching what I was doing other than close friends, and now I have thousands of people seeing what I'm doing when I'm posting and finding information about me online. And I'm by no means a huge celebrity or a household name, and I can't even imagine those people. But from the small following that I have now, I have to admit it's been hard because my whole life is out in the open for people to view and people to comment on my relationships, what I'm wearing, what I look like, and it comes with the job. But I have to admit it is hard to have criticism on things that are just who I am and my experience. But with that, there's also been some amazing support from people, and I love hearing from fans who enjoy the show and they love my character and they want to see more of her, or they want to see me do this. And it's an amazing feeling to know that people not only love me in the show and love Moon, but they're also interested in who I am as a person, who I am as Hannah. And that's a really cool feeling to know that there are people out there who are just interested in what I'm doing in life and my views on things. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah, it's interesting. Again, I'm an adult, right? I'm 45 years old. I turned 45 this year, and it's tough for me now with the show. Now with more and more people watching, you're getting some comments, and some of them are negative. And I have all of my kind of experiences and all of my ways of dealing with it, and it's still tough. So you have a lot more to deal with at a much younger age. So I can only imagine what it's like. The only advice that I would offer, since you seem receptive to my advice, which is very kind of you,
Of course.
the only advice that I would offer is um, people express things, especially on social media, that may have nothing to do with you, and this is just their way of coping or getting their frustration out or living out a certain fantasy that you are a part of because of the show that they happen to watch. And the only advice I would say is don't put any of that on. Kind of view it as a cloud that's there and it passes by. And some clouds are beautiful to look at, and some clouds are dark and dreary, and you don't want to look at them. But it's really just a passing thing. You are who you are. Most of these people don't know who you are, and just continue being yourself and don't let any of the negativity influence you. And then that's where kind of meditation and other practices and staying healthy and staying fit, that's really important, because if your body is a little down, all of that other stuff is going to kind of start attaching in a way to you. So having a good daily ritual and a daily practice, I really view it as taking a shower, right? We all shower, we take, we brush our teeth. This is the same way. Social media, it's something that needs to be rinsed off. All of that energy, all of those attitudes, they just need to flow away. I'm me, that's them, and I'll take the blessings, and I won't take the, the blame. It will.
Wow, that's beautiful advice, and I couldn't agree more. I'll frequently take social media breaks, just delete the app and not go on it for a couple days, because honestly it can, like you're saying, it can have a negative impact. But also what you're saying about focusing on yourself and who you are and the practices that help your mental health and your physical health, those are what are important. And social media is just, I don't want to say vapid, I think that's a little harsh, but it's a platform of images that are curated of what people want you to see. And people a lot of times can hide behind a screen. And I agree with you. We gotta push the negativity away and not focus on it.
It's an all, I mean, social media is just an all you can eat buffet, right? So you want to find hatred, there's plenty of it. You want to find beauty and gentleness, it's there too. So it's like life. It's what we choose to focus on. That's what defines our reality. So social media is just an expression of that principle.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I agree.
Perfect. Few more questions. So, in terms of looking at your social media, I see really fun and heartwarming and silly photos that you have with your sister. So, is your sister thinking of getting in the business? Is this something that she doesn't want to have anything to do with? What's the family dynamic?
Yeah, so I'm the oldest. I'm the oldest of three. I have a brother who is 16 and my sister is 15. And I've kind of always been interested in the entertainment industry and being in the spotlight. And my siblings are very much not that way. My siblings are both into sports, and they're both so funny. Like they're hilarious, but they're not very like in your face entertainer. Let me jazz hands, show you what I can do types. Um, but my sister is hilarious, and I think she would be a fantastic actor if she wanted to be. Um, but no, she's into running, and we live on a farm, so she has a horse that she rides, and we've grown a lot closer now that she's older in high school, and it's really special to have her in my life, and my brother. I'm very lucky with the family I have.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I actually going back to our previous point, the fact that you're in North Carolina, the fact that you're not in LA in that bubble is probably also healthier and better for you because you can go back to the reality as opposed to the put up bubble that people are in oftentimes in LA. That's why a lot of actors really prefer New York or just prefer somewhere outside of
Mm.
LA. They want to work in LA, but they need to reconnect back to life, and life usually is outside of it.
Oh yeah, I tried to move out to LA last year, last January, and I was there for a few months, and then COVID happened, and exactly, and so I made the decision to come back home, which ultimately was the best decision I could have made because with everything going on, it really was the best for my mental health to be surrounded by my family and friends here in North Carolina. Um, and I've been very lucky. They've been with me throughout this whole crazy process. We've been here for each other, and I am going to be going back to LA, take two in January. So we'll see how that goes.
Again, just remember the mental health part of it and know that you can go back and kind of recharge. And the fact that you live on the farm, you live on in North Carolina is gorgeous. A lot of great air. And you have the mountains and you have the greenery and you have the forests and it's just that's a charging station for your body and your soul. So you can live in LA but make frequent visits back home.
Right. I love to travel, so I'd love to see other states as well and go to other countries. I just got my passport too before COVID, and
Well,
now nobody wants Americans, so I'll just have to wait.
listen, it's all going to change, but the passport is valid for a while. I think it's 10 years or 5 years or
Right.
10 years or so. I think you're. Let's hope. Let's hope that you'll get a chance to use it before you have to renew it. Uh,
Yeah.
so what's next for Hannah? I know that you're keeping busy. Is there anything that you're able to share that you're working on? What's happening?
Yeah, sure. So, other than Cobra Kai season 3 coming out in January, a show that I was on, it's been a little while ago. I was in an episode of, it was going to be on TNT. It's called Tell Me Your Secrets. It just got picked up by Amazon Prime Video, so that's exciting. I don't know exactly when, but it is moving to that platform in 2021. So, I'm excited to hear about that. And in regards to what I'm doing now, I'm spending as much time with my family as I can. I'm taking some acting classes with my acting teacher here in North Carolina that I grew up with. So that's been really special to feel like I'm recharging and learning some new tools for my acting tool belt. And then yeah, I'm gonna to I'm going to move back out to LA in January again. A lot of my people are out there, and who knows about the film industry, what's going to be open and what not, but I am filming self-tapes and getting a few auditions here and there, and hopefully things will just get better and not worse.
Let's hope so, because we've had enough of it.
Yes, we've had a year for sure.
Yeah, the silver lining of COVID time is the fact that I launched I'm talking to me personally, obviously, this is a horrible time for a lot of people, but, me personally, it gave me a chance to kind of launch the show. So hopefully we survive all of this, and I'll remember 2020 for a lot of the bad things that happened, but also for the beautiful beginnings. And that's my hope.
Oh yeah, I agree 100%. I think there's been so many awful things to come out of this year, but exactly, there are a lot of things that we've all learned about ourselves and each other throughout this process, and hopefully it'll just get better. And today's election day, and come on, people, we gotta look out for our future.
Yeah. Well, Anna, it's been such a joy talking to you. You're a wonderful 100th guest. You're welcome back anytime. Best of luck in your career, and thank you.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure, and thanks to everybody for tuning in. This will be up today. It is election day. If you haven't voted yet, please go vote. I know who I want you to vote for, but that's not the point. The point is to exercise our right and responsibility to vote. So go and vote. Thank you again for tuning in, everybody. We love you, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.